Hello everyone, welcome back to the ESD podcast. Today with us is Katerina Esnerova from GC Czech Republic and chairperson of the General Conference, the second time. Hello.
Hi Mark. Thank you for having me in the podcast.
Yeah, you're welcome. How do you feel? We are actually now sitting in Vienna during the Annual Conference 2021. We are both tested, we are wearing masks, so no worries about that. But how are you feeling?
Actually, the two things that you said are very important to how I feel. I am in Vienna, and actually before I left home, I did a count that actually this was the longest period in about 7 or 8 years of me not traveling abroad. Mm-hmm. So it was very exciting for me to finally travel.
And it was only to Vienna.
It was only to Vienna, yeah, so exactly. If you go from Prague to Vienna, it's basically like going to your almost second home, because Vienna is very similar to Prague. It feels very similar. But so it's really exciting to be not at home all the time, just basically by myself.
Home office, I guess.
In home office, obviously. So like meeting people, meeting EAST people live is wonderful. And yes, at the same time, it is the General Conference for me as the chairperson, and it's Tuesday, if I'm not mistaken, because you
lose Tuesday evening, actually.
You lose track of time at EAST conferences, whatever conference it is, and whatever your job role there is. So yes, we still have one day of General Conference ahead of us, but at the same time, a lot has been done already. So. Tired, obviously.
I think that's the good thing about EC, but it would not be the same if you would not be tired.
Exactly, yeah. When I was thinking about it, it was like, so why do we do it? Because before every AC, even before when I was the exchange coordinator, it was like, I know that it is going to be a crazy week, like in particular those few days at the beginning when you want to exchange all your offers.
Basically,
it's so
no
crazy,
sleep in
no
the end.
Sleep. I remember in our team, one of the team who wasn't so busy and was just like assisting us during exchange, his job also was to ask us whether we have eaten or drank anything in the past 3 hours, because that's how intense and you know it can get. So I was like, why do we do it? So I think it's like running a marathon. I mean, I'm not a runner, but I guess that if you go to and want to run a marathon, you also know that it's going to hurt like hell. But for some reason you do it because it's a challenge. It's an adrenaline.
And it's also the positive feeling afterwards.
Exactly,
when you're done,
and it's also the positive feeling
something.
afterwards. Exactly, and with EAST conferences you also get a lot of positive feeling throughout, obviously, thanks to like all the meeting people, networking.
I mean, before we talk into this friendship and so on, actually, maybe for some, can you shortly explain what the General Conference is in EAST? Because maybe we have some people not so familiar with EAST and the structure. Just maybe short, what is the General Conference? Why are we doing it? And so what's happening there? Yeah,
so the General Conference, it's the highest authority in EAST. Because the General Conference makes all the rules. Obviously there are rules that the whole EAST is governed by, and it is up to the General Conference to decide what the rules are like, what local committees, not so much, but mostly national committees, members can do, cannot do, how exchange works, how budget is prepared. So all those important decisions that need to be made are made by the General Conference, which is composed of mandated delegates. Each time it's one delegate per a member country. So it's these people who actually make the decisions, and then obviously there is the international board that is more of an executive power. So like the decisions are there with the General Conference.
Yeah, so I think that's for a lot of people that GC in the end is also a lot about the elections, about the board, which has the duty to administrate the association throughout the year, because the GC is only meeting once a year at the annual conference, where we also do a lot of exchanges. And and what, like we said, when we both used to be exchange coordinators, and it basically first few days of the conference is like basically no sleep, a lot of work, but
a lot of party as well.
Yeah, and I always enjoyed it, actually, I have to say.
Yeah, for me too. I know that it's going to be very crazy, but that's why we do it. That's what the annual conference is about. And I also believe that's why this tradition of meeting once a year is still holding up, even though we can do all year exchange. And now we are actually meeting online, so apparently it works. But what we hear from the people is, on one hand, yes, we can feel the EAST spirit even though we are online. But on the other hand, everybody would just wish to be here. And it is definitely not the same being here at the hotel, like 8 people. Normally it would be 200 people.
Yeah, that's one thing. Maybe let's talk about that. I wanted to cover COVID actually later, but
okay,
unfortunately
I
think we should talk about it because like normally, you know, you have like, it's your second year's chairperson, and last year you had like all those rows, and I mean, if people who don't know the GC, it looks like in the UN. I always said, when somebody was asking me, it looked like in the UN, you have like the tables, there's a person sitting in front, there is basically the flag of the country, and for me that was always impressive. It was my first annual conference in Korea, and there was this table, and I had so much respect in there. It was like, wow, you know, those are the people deciding.
Exactly. Yeah, you are like, I remember when I was a regular member, I didn't know much about the international level, what is happening there, so it was very like far removed for me, not really knowing that, yes, these were like real actual people that you can talk to, and these are often students, or they have maybe just graduated and are still with the organization. So then exactly, like coming there and see, they are like regular people, and afterward they go party with you. It is a very nice feeling.
Yes, and this year, I mean, if we want to describe our setup we are having here.
It is very different, because, and that is actually when we were talking about the setup, and I wasn't involved from the very beginning because that's not really how it works, but I remember like maybe a week before coming to Vienna, I woke up like 6 in the morning. And my first thought was, oh my God, will I be able to see the delegates in like the general conference? If I don't see them, I can't do the chairing, because I think this is still very much a conversation, like communication, even though the delegates need to formally ask for the floor and nobody can talk whenever they like. You also communicate through different means. It's not only about
you see
talking.
the facial expression
exactly,
in the end.
You see whether they are like nodding, yes, we agree, or whether they are like confused, what is going on, maybe they need to explain something one more time or something. And now suddenly we can't see them, so the only feedback you get is from the chat. Thank God for the chat, actually.
And we are still lucky because we have 3 cameras here, so at least we can like focus on you, especially because you're chairing the session. But we also have a flat screen TV there where we see at least the backstage. So when someone is seeking the floor, they're coming backstage, and we see them in this very short moment at least.
That is definitely good. But for me at the beginning was like, oh my God, how are we going to do that without seeing the delegates?
But I mean, it took some time, but in the end, I think it's now.
Yeah, but actually, and then my feeling was like, I have to admit, I was strangely calm when I came to Vienna. I was like, we will manage somehow. Come on, we are EAST, we will manage. Maybe it will not be ideal, maybe it will not be 100%, but we will manage somehow, and every day we will learn from our mistakes. We will make things better if we can, and yes.
Do you think that's the EAST spirit there?
I think it's definitely the EAST spirit in its best. I think there are so many things that for me is EAST spirit are meeting here, like the courage to do something like that. It is preposterous if you think about it. There are 8 people here in Vienna with this ridiculous setup with 3 different cameras. Now I can see like 50 different wires leading from one way to the other, and we are projecting the general conference to 80 different countries over the entire world with different time zones, and all this is somehow managed by people who are volunteers. They are not professionals, definitely not professional audio guys. So
no.
it is absolutely, if you like really think about it like this, it's amazing. And so I think like that's being able to doing this, and even like have the idea like we can do this, that's definitely the spirit there. And at the same time also like this feeling that we maybe won't be perfect, but that's also why we are in EAST, to learn something, to try something new. And at the same time to know that in AIS the mistakes are okay, it's not like the end of the world.
Actually, I mean, I think that brings me to my next point that you said trying something new and so on, because actually you're a professional interpreter.
Yeah.
So how did it come that you ended up with IESTE? Because IESTE, we are focusing on technical natural science, and so most of our members and volunteers are actually from those fields.
Yes, actually it was thanks to a friend.
Yeah.
Because we studied high school together, and then I started studying interpreting, and she started to study civil engineering. And she joined AISTE because she has always been very active. So, and she kept telling me, I'm in AISTE, and they are doing all these wonderful things. But I was like, you guys are like technical students.
You're the nerds, you know.
Exactly. What would I do there? And but it's true that part of AISTE is summer reception, so trainees come in, and usually there's like this event. So in Prague, it is Prague Challenge.
Yeah.
So many students come for Prague Challenge sometime in July, and what they wanted was a guide through Prague. So she was like, you know the language. I have also like did some like tour guiding in Prague. So let's do it for us. And I actually still remember it was, the weather wasn't very nice, and I not originally from Prague, so I was like, I don't want to go to Prague, it's raining, maybe I could just like text her that I won't come, but then I was, no, I've already promised, so I have to. And so this was July, and in September I was already a member of a local committee and started doing exchange.
That's really like a fast development, and luckily you came in. But that was like you're now member, or you have been member.
Actually, I'm very bad with like counting how long I've been doing something, but I think it must be like 13 years ago. That's crazy.
Wow, that's
maybe
crazy.
It's a little fewer, like 10, 11 maybe.
Maybe what was it then back then when you arrived at Prague Challenge? I was there. It's incredible. I was like several years. I won it actually too. There's always this 2 times. There's always this competition, right? Yeah. And I won it 2 times in a row with my bro. And
nice.
Nice I mean, it's fun.
Yeah.
And what was it then on this weekend? Because in the end, you see a lot of people from, let's say, all over Europe in the end, because some are doing internships there, but I know from Austria, and I'm from Austria, a lot of trainees go to Prague Challenge because it's the easiest way how to explore Prague, right?
Definitely.
So what was it then? Because then
actually for me it wasn't this weekend, it was because then like in, I don't know, a month, it's the Budapest weekend. Actually I was invited for the Budapest weekend as a thank you that I helped with Prague Challenge, so they were like, come with us, and I was like, but I'm not a member, how can I even come with us? I was like, that doesn't matter, just come with us. And we took a train, and we went by train to Budapest, and I remember during the train journey, it was like really good conversation. The people that I met there in the Czech Republic, they were really interesting people. They came from like different study backgrounds because they were technical students, some of them were doing chemistry, some of them were IT guys. And it was really interesting to be talking to them because yes, I am an interpreter, so I do languages, but I use a language as my work tool, so I can interpret anything from electrical engineering to, I don't know, something with art. Yeah. So it was really interesting meeting those different people who apparently were very enthusiastic about this organization and were very motivated to do something. And I've always liked people like this who are not there only like asking what it can bring me in terms of maybe money or some prospect.
It's this service then what
somehow
inspires.
Doing something bigger that is about more than just necessarily you, even though obviously AISTE brings you so many things like for yourself personally. But
what did it bring you? I mean, being an interpreter, of course, I think what my first thought was, okay, language, because there are people from all over the world coming, and they have their accents, they have maybe very hard pronunciation of the English words.
Sometimes, yes.
So
well,
what's
actually for me, what it brought me, I like to say that for me, AISTE, I was active in AISTE Czech Republic for like 7 years, which is roughly the same time that I did my studies, because it took me longer because of AISTE.
Doesn't matter.
Obviously. And I like to say that AISTE was like my second university. because it prepared me, because I work freelance. I am not an employee in a company. So my school taught me how to be an interpreter and translator, and AIST taught me how to be freelancer. So how to talk to people, how to promote myself, all the soft skills, how to communicate, how to organize my time. And for example, in AIST Czech Republic, the focus always was very much on training. So thanks to AIST, I did like a managerial training. And many of those things that I learned in AIST and through AIST workshops, I now use when I teach students at university. So for example, the way I teach is very much based on how trainings are done in AIST. So I think that in terms of like all those practical things that you need for life, not only like the core skill, but all these other things that you need to be able to succeed and be happy in your professional life, AIST taught me all of that. It wasn't it definitely wasn't my university, it was AIST.
It's so funny that you are saying it like that you feel AIST was your second university, because when the other day, when the honorary president, the founder of the Student Run AIST Austria was here, I talked to him, okay, what do you think about AIST when you see still, he was founding Student Run AIST, and what do you think what's bringing him? And he's an entrepreneur, he invests in startups, has a startup and so on. And he said, in AIST, you're doing your AIST MBA. It was teaching you all these things you just described, and it's so funny when you speak to alumni or to people who are really long in AIST. All of them are saying the same in their own way, but in the end, that's the bottom line. All these soft skills and trainings and of course friendship.
And obviously, yes, that's exactly what I was going to mention, that you meet wonderful people. And what I also like about AIST, that it brings together different people, so they may have different working styles, they may have different opinions about things, but it always is about dialogue, talking about things, discussing them. So that's wonderful, and obviously, the people are great. It was my impression during the first Budapest weekend, and still some of my closest friends are from AIST. Because you simply meet such good people, and also you do very intense things together, like the conferences and the big projects, so a lot of long nights and a lot of responsibility, so it really makes people close.
I mean, let's come back to the conference now and being the chair, because it's now the second year. And what do you like most about being the chair, so to say? Because you have, like, I saw your rule book, because we are following, and some people maybe know it, Robert's Rules of Order, which is, as far as I know, from the US originally.
Yes, it was General Roberts, if I'm not mistaken, and it's like this ultimate manual that is the basis for most of the rules of order. It is definitely used in the American Congress, but the basis of it is used everywhere.
Okay, so that was my question, because I think it's still in use there, so it's nothing which is like really old or something. It is
very old, We are
and
now
it's used in AIST too,
we are now using, I think, the 11th edition, but there is already 12th edition. We should buy a new one. I don't know what the changes are, but I think that like the substance never changes. But actually what I like about it, and I again remembered it when I started to prepare for this conference, because January generally for interpreting is very slow month. You don't get very many conferences, and so I actually have the time to start studying the rules again, and I really enjoyed it again, because what I really like about it is weird to say it like that, but what I really like about the rules, they are so logical. They make perfect sense. And in the rule book, and I don't have it with me, but it's like a rule book like this thick. It has like 700 pages. But you can actually find an answer to anything, almost anything that can happen. That's why it is the 11th edition, because they are receiving questions, and if there are some new phenomena, new situations that somebody have encountered somewhere, they just add it. So if I want to know, okay, so if this happened and then somebody wants to do this, can this be done? And it's like a flow chart, basically. If this happened, you do this. So if you learn the rules, it becomes very like empowering.
Yeah.
So sometimes I'm like, yeah, it would be really nice if the delegates knew the rules a little bit better, because then they could really use them, and they could. It would be even like more interesting for me as a chairperson, but obviously I'm not there to have it interesting.
I have to admit, the first time when I was first time delegate, I think 2 years ago in when it was the first time being delegate. I have to say I was a bit annoyed by the rules back then, but now being like in, let's say then from the second year on, last year I was like a second time delegate, and this year I'm board member, and it makes sense. Like the first time maybe it feels overwhelming, it feels like, oh, why do you have to do that? But it makes sense from a certain point, because otherwise with having so many people, bringing them in line to finally come to a decision, otherwise it's not possible.
Yeah, exactly. We have so many people because, yes, in EASTE we have, 83 committees are here present, and 56 of them can vote. And yes, try getting 56 people to decide something, and in the process make sure that it is fair, that everybody was able to, to say
because
what
you have
they
some people
want.
More outgoing, they want to talk more often. Others are like, okay, they are not so sure if they are allowed or if they should say something, and that's really, the more I think about it, because I remember when I was leaving that conference back then, I was like, oh my God, these rules, and we were making jokes then back then, you know. But the more I think about them, it's fine, and that's basically rules that we gave to ourselves to follow, and I think in the end we want, as an association, come to a conclusion, and if it's used in some parliament, so it cannot be so bad, because otherwise it would be something new.
Probably, yes. And but on the other hand, I also think that yes, EASTE in many ways is specific. So I think it's always about finding the right kind of balance, like using the rules the way they are supposed to be used, but at the same time not really shoving them people's throats, like
exactly. So
like
I think
overwhelming them with the rules, because that was also like one of my questions that I was asking myself, like what can I bring to the table as the chairperson, like what is something that I'm good at and I can use in being a chairperson. And then I came to a conclusion that what I do good is that I'm an educator. I teach people interpreting, so I was like, this is something that I can do on top of just chairing the conference, making sure that everything works. What I would like to do, if I have the chance, is to make the delegates understand maybe the rules a little bit better, and to realize that exactly, that they make sense, that they are not there to make their life more difficult, but on the other hand, to help them do things. So I think that if a delegate like took even, there is an abridged guide that has like 100 pages, and like studied it properly, they would be the star of the conference. They would be able to do anything, like you really using the motions, like we can now do this and this will happen if you do that. So it could be very exciting, I think.
I have to say I'm not sure about that.
Okay, I know.
No, of course.
But and for me, obviously, like the nice thing also is that it's something in many ways similar to what I do as an interpreter, and in many ways very different, because as an interpreter, what I usually do is I prepare for an assignment, so maybe I spend like 3-4 hours preparing for a conference, then I go to the conference and that's over. But now it's like I spend a week preparing just for myself, rereading the rules, making sure that I remember everything correctly, and then being 1 week here before the conference, 1 week, almost 1 week here for the conference. So I basically focus on one thing, going very deeply into the topic for almost 3 weeks. Which is a nice change, and also it requires me thinking differently, like very logically, and finding how the things connect one to the other. So
you would say it still helps you, then now in this new position, also for your day-to-day job.
Yeah, definitely. And I think at the same time I'm using what I normally use in my day-to-day job. So yes, I can remain pretty much calm under pressure. I can multitask under pressure. Maybe like keeping my poker face and at the same time frantically looking, how do I do this? How do I do this? What is the rule? What is the rule? But at the same time looking like at least somehow calm.
No, I have to say you managed that pretty well, especially, I mean, we talked about that earlier when now in this online setup, we are not seeing the delegates, right? So I'm sitting right next to you, of course, with 1.5 meter distance. Although we get tested every day, but still we have to align with the corona concept here, which is required by law from Austria, from the Republic of Austria. So we are sitting apart, and it's like really, you're sitting there with 2 laptops and like...
Yeah, it's like flying a spaceship.
Yeah, but
and
somehow...
I have these crazy spreadsheets, and so yes.
So helping you with like finding
exactly.
the
Yeah, not necessarily the words, but I have like this huge spreadsheet where I have the points on the agenda, who is handling the point, what is the procedure, whether there is going to be any action, any voting, any comments. So it's like crazy long spreadsheet for the whole thing.
Oh, okay, that's
So
interesting.
like a master plan.
Yeah.
And probably, yes, I'm running again this year, so obviously I don't know if the General Conference approves me, but if they do, one of the things that I would like to do, like this last challenge for this potential one last year, is to somehow put all these materials that are prepared for myself together and put together some kind of, not like a guide, but at least something that I could pass down to the person who comes after me.
Yeah, so that the new person then gets easier into the topic, because like I said, it's like that thick 700 pages.
Yeah,
so
it reads rather well, so I think that I've read like maybe 400 of those pages I actually did read.
Wow.
Several times, some of them.
Yeah, I mean.
Yeah, but exactly. AIST is specific in many ways, so some of the things I was like, okay, now the book says that, but AIST says that, so how does it go together? And once you... I realized how it works and make a note of it, I can just pass it on to another person, and obviously they will have to read the book too, because I think without it I would feel very bad doing it. Yeah. But at least I think they wouldn't have to reinvent the wheel, and maybe could focus on something else that needs like improving on the process. So passing down what works, I think, is very important, and I think that's one of the things that maybe we slightly overlook in AIST, like sharing knowledge at some levels.
At some levels, I would agree, because especially I think in the exchange program and via exchange program, we have actually quite good guides, but there are so many other things. I mean, in the end, we have to do a lot of administrative work in the end to send there is like laws, visas, and so on. And I feel like, especially, I mean, we're both coming from student-run countries, so we members either join us because they love, like you said, they love this service, they love that people are engaged, that they want to do something, or they want to join, and this is also totally fine, because simply they want to do an internship. And that's, I think, because that's what we are doing, so we need these people. For me, it was both, by the way. It was like, and it was actually about learning English.
Okay.
Because when I did my A-levels in German, because I was so bad at English that my teachers back then said, if you want to do your A-levels in English, you will fail. I tell you right now, you will fail. And even in my first year of university, I was not even really able to introduce myself.
Really? Oh my God! Yeah, that's such a progress. Congratulations!
Thank you. Thanks to yes.
Now you are our moderator at the conference.
Yeah.
Introducing all the big keynote speakers. Okay, so
it
really worked for you.
Yeah,
AIST really works, guys. AIST really works.
Yeah, obviously, because for me it was losing the fear of speaking English, but coming now back also maybe to your AIST career, because you told me your first AC was in Belfast back then, which was in 2013 or 11 or something.
God, yes.
No, doesn't matter.
Count back. That's exactly what I'm very bad at.
Yeah,
but
me too, because I was not member back then, so I don't know.
Yeah, it was Belfast, but back then I was still an LC president. One of the Prague LCs, but somehow, because I had a background in exchange as a local exchange coordinator, the national coordinators asked me whether I could go with them, because we could take more people to do exchange. So I was like, yeah, this could work. And there was like this possibility that maybe I might become the national exchange coordinator, so it made sense to go to Belfast. Belfast was the first.
What is your most precious memory in AIST?
Oh my God!
Let me phrase it different. What was your AIST moment where you really knew, this is it? This is amazing.
Okay, my AIST. I think it would be the AC. It will sound a bit strange, but it will be the AC in Korea, because it was actually my last AC as the national exchange coordinator. And when I did it the years before, I think I was very focused on the job, so I didn't really have that much capacity to do the partying and to enjoy the people. I was like very much about we need to do this and this and this and this needs to be ready. So, and I was the person who was like coordinating the whole exchange team, so I felt big responsibility. And I think I didn't really give myself the freedom to enjoy the conference with everything, including the partying. But then when I knew that this was my like last year and there were actually people who were good at it, who knew how to do things and they didn't really need my supervision, maybe they were rather glad that I wasn't really like, this needs to be done like that. So I was really enjoying the conference with everything, like the parties, the karaoke. So I think that was it. And I think that the other day we were talking about the party after the international evening.
I just wanted to say it was my first AC and actually the first time we two met actually back then, because
probably yes.
No, because I was not so often on all those other smaller conferences, so to say. It was my first annual conference. So I remember that we met there first, and like you said, and maybe tell the people what happened after the international evening.
Yeah, okay, yeah. So
or should we? I'm not sure if we are allowed to.
Yeah, I think we can somehow like describe, because the point is that obviously international evening can be very wild, and in Korea it ended at 11.
Yeah.
So that's basically the hour when everything starts, and suddenly we were like, hey, this is the end. Okay, okay. So we went back to the hotel, and it was a huge hotel with like huge conference rooms and some very strange rooms. So, and there was this huge party in one of the meeting rooms. And yeah, obviously there was a lot of alcohol.
The wonderful thing about it is there was like, student-run countries, so students, some of them not even 20 years old. And right next to them there was like those administrators or university professors, like 60, 70, and it was like everyone together.
Yes,
like
some of them dancing on the tables. Yes.
And that was...
the atmosphere was wonderful. So I think this party would be one highlight, and in Korea, obviously, karaoke nights. I remember how bad singers you Austrians are.
Yes, I know. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I still remember that. Yeah, so yes, so this was, and for me, this was probably also one of the highlights, because the team that was there from EAS, the Czech Republic, I think that was like the best team that I have ever worked with in my entire life. So the national secretary, the exchange coordinators, all the people who were there for Czech Republic, it was such a joy to be there with them. And from Korea, we actually went to Japan for our own post-conference. So we were together for like 10, 11, for almost 2 weeks. And I think it was like day 10, I told them, guys, I probably really like you because you still don't piss me off. And because I am an introverted person, so sometimes I need time for myself, and this was like 10 days we spent together all the time, and I was really okay with it. So I thought, this really works, and so this was a great team of people.
That's cool. That's really cool to hear. And we are nearly at the end already, actually. The time flies, so maybe some of you, because I want to come back to your profession, because for me interpreting is like I said, was never really good with languages. So we talked earlier this week when we started about your profession, how basically also helped, and you described it already, that because of the background of the students. And maybe it would be also interesting to hear again, how can I imagine your job as an interpreter? Because that's for me, I'm in electronics, so something different.
Yeah, I get it. And I also like to ask this question of people who do something completely different than I do. If I work freelance, for me it means great freedom to choose what I work on, or rather like to work on a very broad spectrum of things and topics. So, as I mentioned, it can be a film festival one day, and I'm also accredited to interpret for the European Union, so I might go to Brussels the other and interpret something about railways, or something about electrical engineering, actually. So, I really like this variety, and that I can, meet different people, or talk about different topics. So even at school, I always was interested in so many things. So ultimately, I believe that choosing interpreting was a very good choice because I can do many different things.
And nowadays, is like the same as the day before, like you, or?
Yes, to some extent. Well, it's interpreting is a very seasonal job. You usually have conferences from like March to June, July maybe. Then nothing happens during the summer, obviously. Then maybe from like mid-September to November. And then again, nothing happens in December and January and February. So I also am a translator. I also teach at university. So I do those different things. But basically still it's communication between two languages, two cultures, so in this respect it is different. And to some extent, yes, when it's the interpreting season, every day can be different. So one day half day I'm preparing for a conference, then I go interpret something else, then there is the conference, then I spend one day home preparing for school, teaching, or doing maybe a translation. Now with COVID, obviously, it's a bit different because everything is happening from home. There is actually a possibility of remote interpreting. So I still sit at home in front of my two computers and can interpret remotely, which is a good thing because that's right now the only possibility for us interpreters how to work.
Yeah, I can imagine. And I hope for all of us that maybe hopefully next year you have again the audience in front of you when you're at the general conference. And I really hope you get re-elected. So let me maybe finish with my last question.
Yes.
So if you can imagine, maybe you can speak to most of the students in the tech, to all of them.
Okay.
Maybe explain to me in like 2-3 sentences, why should they join IEST as a volunteer or go in IEST internship?
I think it's the best preparation you can get for life there is. Like professionally, personally, you will find friends for life. So maybe now I shouldn't say this, but it even doesn't have to be IEST. Like do something more than just the studies, than just what somebody tells you to do. Like you need to do this subject in order to graduate. You need to write this paper in order to graduate. In IEST, it's about you. There you can do whatever you want. You can come up with a project and do it. And I think I guess that's one of the most important things that IEST has taught me, not to decide based on somebody else wants from me or tells me to do, but actually think about what it is that I want to do. And also the confidence that I can do it, or at least I can try. And if I fail, well, I will learn from my mistakes and try again.
And you can try again and fail better.
And fail better, exactly. Yeah, so yeah, do it.
So thank you very much, Katerina.
Yeah, you're very much welcome.
Thank you very much. That was nice.